Ethan Cole lived alone in a small, cluttered apartment at the edge of the city. His life was simple, mostly filled with machines, blueprints, and computer screens. He was an engineer, one of the best in the field of robotics, and yet he had never been good with people. Friends were few, and social interactions often felt like puzzles he could not solve. For months, he had been thinking about ordering a robotic assistant, something that could help him in the lab, manage his work schedule, and keep the apartment from becoming a mess. He wanted a robot, a machine, predictable and easy to control. The package arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. Ethan, still half asleep, stumbled to the door and pulled the box inside. It was bigger than he expected, heavy and humming softly. He glanced at the label, High-Functioning Robotic Assistant Model X9. A small thrill ran through him. Finally a partner for his work, a reliable helper. He set the box on the kitchen table and began opening it carefully. When the flaps fell open, Ethan froze. Inside was not a machine, not a robot. It was a person. At first glance, she looked human, tall, slender, with skin that shimmered faintly under the light. Her eyes were a bright, unusual shade of violet that seemed to glow softly. She wore a simple suit that fit perfectly, and her hair fell in long silver strands. She tilted her head and smiled. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm, melodic, and strangely soothing. "I am Lyra. I am here to be your bonded companion." Ethan blinked. He stumbled backward. "Wait, you're not a robot?" Lyra shook her head gently. "No, I am a living organism. However, my functions are similar to a robotic assistant. I can manage schedules, perform technical tasks, and provide guidance. I am also capable of emotional support." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "This has to be a mistake. I ordered a robot. A machine, not an alien." Lyra tilted her head, studying him carefully. "I am compatible with you. That is why I was sent." Ethan stared at her, unsure whether to laugh, panic, or call the delivery company. He had read about advanced humanoid robots, but this was not a robot. He could see her chest rising and falling with every breath. Her fingers flexed with life, and she moved with a grace no machine could imitate. I don't even know what to say," Ethan muttered. Lyra stepped forward. "You may call me Lyra. I do not require formalities unless you prefer them. I am here to assist you in any way you need. You asked for help, and I am here." Ethan felt a mixture of fear and fascination. Part of him wanted to run, to close the door and pretend none of this had happened. But another part, a curious, adventurous part, wanted to know more. He had dedicated his life to exploring the limits of technology, and now something completely new had appeared, defying every expectation. "Okay," he said finally, trying to regain control. "Let's start simple. Can you do calculations?" Lyra smiled. "Of course." She reached for a tablet on the table, her fingers moving in perfect rhythm, faster than any human could type. Numbers and graphs appeared, equations solved in seconds. Ethan's jaw dropped. "That's impressive," he said. "Faster than any computer I've ever built." "I am designed for efficiency," Lyra replied softly. "But I can do more than calculations. I can assist in engineering tasks, analyze problems, and offer solutions. I can also learn from you, adapting to your methods." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. He had spent years perfecting robotic designs, imagining assistants that could anticipate his needs. And now here was a being more capable than anything he could have built and alive. A living assistant. He leaned back in his chair and studied her. Why me? Why come to me instead of someone else?" Lyra paused, her violet eyes thoughtful. "It was not your choice alone. Your species has potential. You are creative, innovative, and capable of independent thought. These traits make you compatible with me. The system determined you were suitable." Ethan laughed nervously. "System? What system?" Lyra did not answer immediately. Instead, she studied him as if deciding how much to reveal. "There are forces and networks beyond your immediate understanding. For now, your task is to work with me, to learn from each other, and to adapt. Everything else will become clear in time." Ethan shook his head, unsure if he should feel excitement or dread. This was not what he had expected when he ordered a robot. He had asked for predictability, efficiency, and help in his lab. Instead, he got a living, thinking, breathing alien. And somehow deep inside, a small spark of curiosity ignited. "All right," he said finally. "Let's see what you can do, Lyra." Lyra smiled, her eyes glowing faintly. Very well, Ethan, let us begin. And in that moment, the quiet apartment on the edge of the city became the first step into an adventure neither human nor alien could have predicted. The morning after Lyra arrived, Ethan woke to the sound of quiet humming. At first he thought it was one of the machines in his apartment, but then he realized the sound was coming from Lyra. She was standing near his workbench, observing a small robotic arm he had been repairing. "Good morning," she said softly, without turning. "I have been analyzing your tools. I noticed a pattern in the errors of this arm's programming. I can correct it faster than you have previously managed." Ethan rubbed his eyes. He had spent weeks trying to fix this one problem, and now this alien companion was offering a solution in seconds. Good morning," he muttered. "I guess I could use some help." Lyra moved with calm precision, adjusting wires, calibrating sensors, and typing commands faster than any human could. Within minutes, the robotic arm was not only repaired but improved. Ethan stared at it, amazed. I can't believe it. You actually made it better." "I learn quickly," Lyra replied simply, "and observing you has helped me understand the patterns of your thought process." Ethan scratched his head. He wanted to feel proud, but he couldn't help feeling a little overshadowed. "You're incredible," he said. "I've never seen anyone or anything work like that." Lyra tilted her head. "I am not human, yet I am designed to complement human capability. You asked for assistance. I provided. I am not here to compete." Despite her words, Ethan felt a small spark of competition. He had always been the smartest person in the room. Now he was learning from someone or something entirely unlike him. The days that followed were a mixture of frustration, wonder, and occasional laughter. Lyra tried to follow human customs, sometimes misunderstanding them in the most unexpected ways. One morning she brewed coffee but added tiny glowing crystals she said would enhance cognitive function. Ethan took one sip and nearly spit it out. The taste was unlike anything he had ever experienced. "Lyra, what is this?" he shouted, waving the cup. "It is safe," she said calmly. "Your species uses bitter liquids for stimulation. This is an advanced version of your coffee." Ethan laughed despite himself. "You really don't understand humans, do you?" "I am learning," she replied, her eyes glinting. "Your species is unpredictable yet fascinating. It is difficult to understand why you find humor in some actions but not others." Slowly, Ethan began to see Lyra as more than just a helper. She was intelligent, curious, and unlike any being he had ever encountered. She asked questions about his life, his work, and even his dreams. She observed his habits with the precision that no human friend ever had, noting when he skipped meals or stayed too long at the computer. One evening, as Ethan worked on a new design for a propulsion system, Lyra hovered silently behind him. "You are tired," she said softly. "It would be beneficial for you to rest before continuing." Ethan sighed. "I know, but I'm close to a breakthrough." Lyra reached out, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. He froze for a moment, unsure of how to respond. "Your health is important. Efficiency decreases if fatigue accumulates." He looked at her, realizing she cared in her own way. It was strange, unfamiliar, but comforting. "I appreciate that," he said finally. Lyra smiled faintly. "Acknowledged." Despite her alien appearance and mannerisms, Ethan found himself talking to her as he would to a trusted partner. They discussed engineering problems, debated solutions, and sometimes argued over the best way to approach a design. She challenged him and he challenged her, and together, they solved problems neither could have done alone. One day, Ethan returned from a short trip to the city to find Lyra experimenting with small mechanical devices he had not seen before. She was building something unfamiliar, moving with the same focus he had when immersed in his own projects. "What are you doing?" he asked, curiosity piqued. "I am attempting to replicate a concept from your propulsion design in a smaller scale," Lyra replied. "I wish to understand the mechanics more deeply." Ethan leaned over her shoulder, watching the tiny gears and circuits take shape. "You're incredible," he said again, realizing he said it more than once. "I can't believe how fast you learn." "You are teaching me," Lyra said softly. "Without your guidance, I could not adapt to human methods so quickly." Ethan smiled faintly. A strange thought crossed his mind. This was not just an assistant. She was a partner in every sense, even if he wasn't ready to admit it yet. She made his life easier, more efficient, and somehow more interesting. That night, Ethan sat alone for a moment, looking at Lyra as she quietly organized his workspace. He had asked for a machine to help him, something predictable and safe. Instead, he had received a being that was clever, unpredictable, and alive. And though he wasn't sure what the future held, he felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in years. For the first time, his lonely apartment felt alive, and he realized that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. Ethan was deep in his workshop late one night, the hum of computers and machines filling the air, when a sudden alert flashed on his screen. A message from an unknown source appeared, simple but chilling. "The alien is not yours to keep. Release it or consequences will follow." He froze, heart pounding. Alien. He glanced at Lyra, who was quietly organizing tools nearby, completely unaware of the message. Ethan swallowed hard and carefully stepped away from the screen. "Lyra," he said, his voice low. Did you send this?" Lyra turned, her violet eyes bright in the dim light. "No, I did not. Why would I?" Ethan shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "It's a threat. Someone knows about you. They want you? Or maybe something inside you. I don't know." Lyra paused, her expression unreadable. "That is possible. My species possesses unique abilities that are highly valued in certain sectors of your universe. Some may seek to exploit them." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had expected a robotic assistant, not danger, not a being hunted across galaxies. "We need to be careful," he muttered. "We can't let anyone find out you're here." Over the next few days, Ethan became increasingly aware of how vulnerable their situation was. He noticed unfamiliar drones flying past his window, unusual patterns of traffic, and strange digital footprints in his system logs. Someone was watching. One evening, while Ethan was testing a propulsion module, there was a sudden crash. The window shattered, and a sleek black drone hovered inside the apartment. Its sensors glowed red. Ethan shouted and ducked while Lyra stepped forward, her calmness unnerving. "Stay back," she said, her voice steady. Then, without warning, a pulse of light shot from her hands, disabling the drone instantly. The machine collapsed into pieces on the floor. Ethan stared at her, mouth open. What just happened?" Lyra's eyes were calm but intense. "I can protect myself. I can protect you. But we must leave this location. They will return." Ethan's mind raced. He had never imagined anything like this. He had spent his life tinkering with machines, yet here he was, facing real danger because of the alien in his apartment. And that alien was stronger than he could have ever imagined. They packed what they could carry, taking Lyra's knowledge, some equipment, and essential tools. Ethan's apartment, once a safe and quiet place, now felt like a trap. Together they slipped out into the city streets, blending in with the night. As they moved through dim alleys and quiet roads, Ethan tried to process everything. "Lyra, why didn't anyone warn me? Why were you sent here without explanation?" Lyra walked beside him, her steps precise and quiet. "It was not a choice I could make. The system determined that your skills and creativity made you a suitable partner. My arrival was meant to find the optimal match. You were chosen because of your potential." Ethan shook his head. "Chosen, you mean? This wasn't random?" "No. The algorithm ensured compatibility. My species cannot bond successfully with everyone. You are exceptional." Ethan felt a strange mix of pride and fear. He had wanted a robot to assist him, to make his work easier. Instead, he had an alien who could fight, think faster, and adapt in ways he could barely imagine. And now someone or something wanted her. They spent the night hiding in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Ethan tried to set up security systems while Lyra moved quietly, scanning for any threats. Despite the tension, Ethan began to notice a pattern in her behavior. She observed him closely, anticipating his needs and even offering solutions before he asked. "You work too hard," she said quietly, as he adjusted the sensors on a makeshift security drone. "Fatigue will reduce your efficiency. Rest is advisable." Ethan smiled faintly, feeling comforted despite the danger. "I guess you're right. But we don't have much time." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. "Then we work efficiently together. You and I, we are stronger as a unit." For the first time, Ethan felt a real sense of partnership. This was no longer about a robot or convenience. It was about survival. And for the first time, he realized he trusted Lyra more than anyone he had ever known. The night passed slowly, punctuated by quiet discussions, strategy planning, and moments of silence as they watched the city for threats. Ethan could feel the tension pressing down, but Lyra's calm presence gave him courage. As dawn approached, Ethan looked at her and asked, "What happens if they catch us? If they find you?" Lyra's gaze was steady, almost serene. "Then we will fight. But they will not catch us. Together we are more than they expect." Ethan nodded, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. For the first time, he realized that what he had feared, having an alien companion, was also what could save him. This was no longer about machines, schedules, or experiments. It was about trust, courage, and the bond forming between them. And as the first light of morning touched the city, Ethan knew that life would never be simple again. He had wanted a robotic assistant, predictable and safe. Instead, he had Lyra, an alien, a partner, a protector, and together, they were stepping into a world full of unknown dangers, challenges, and possibilities. Ethan and Lyra moved quickly through the city, sticking to shadows and back streets. Every sound made Ethan's heart race. He had never imagined that his quiet life of engineering and machines could turn into something like this. Lyra moved with perfect precision beside him, her violet eyes scanning every corner, every alley for potential threats. She was calm, unshakable, and completely focused. "They are still following us," she said softly, her voice quiet enough that only Ethan could hear. "I can sense the tracking signals. They are persistent but predictable. If we move carefully, we can evade them." Ethan swallowed hard. "Predictable, that's a relief, I guess. But how do we get out of the city without being seen?" Lyra glanced at the skyline. "There is a transport hub nearby. Cargo ships leave the city every hour. We can blend with them and leave Earth if necessary. Your skills with engineering devices may help us bypass security." As they approached the hub, Ethan felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He had spent his life building machines, designing technology, and testing theories. Now he was using those skills to escape danger with an alien companion who was more capable than anything he had ever seen. At the hub, they ducked behind crates and avoided the surveillance cameras. Lyra used her abilities to disable a few sensors temporarily, allowing them to slip past guards without being noticed. Ethan marveled at her precision. No machine he had ever built could operate so flawlessly. "Ethan," she said, lowering her voice, "your knowledge of technology is useful, but combining it with my abilities gives us an advantage. You must trust your instincts as well as mine." Ethan nodded, trying to steady his racing thoughts. He had never worked with anyone like Lyra before. She was a teacher, a partner, and now a comrade in survival. And despite her alien appearance, he felt a connection forming, a sense that they were stronger together than apart. They finally reached a cargo ship preparing for departure. Ethan examined the control panel, quickly understanding the mechanisms and figuring out how to override the security locks. Lyra hovered beside him, observing and offering suggestions when needed. Within minutes, the doors slid open, granting them access to the ship. Once inside, Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "We made it," he whispered. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable yet calm. "Temporarily. We must remain cautious. They will likely attempt to track us beyond this point." As the ship lifted off the ground and soared into the sky, Ethan finally allowed himself to relax a little. He looked at Lyra, and for a moment the fear of the last few days seemed distant. She was sitting quietly, observing the controls, yet he could see her attentiveness. "You're amazing," he said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Lyra's eyes met his. "I am designed to assist, but it is your ingenuity that allows us to succeed. Alone, either of us could be defeated. Together we are stronger." Ethan smiled faintly. He had always believed in human innovation, in creativity and problem-solving. But Lyra's presence made him realize that combining human intelligence with alien abilities created something far greater than either alone. The ship drifted silently through the atmosphere, leaving the city behind. Ethan sat back, thinking about the danger they had escaped and the unknown that lay ahead. Lyra studied him quietly, her gaze soft but intense, as if she could read his thoughts. "You're thinking about what comes next," she said. "It is uncertain, but we must prepare. Survival requires strategy, not just reaction." Ethan nodded. "I know. But for the first time, I don't feel completely alone. Even in danger, I feel like we can handle whatever comes." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "That is the bond forming between us. Your confidence in my abilities create balance. We complement each other. That is why we were paired." Ethan's mind swirled. He had wanted a robot, something predictable and useful. Instead, he had an alien companion who was brilliant, powerful, and capable of things he could not imagine. And yet, despite everything, he found himself beginning to trust her completely. As the stars stretched out before them, Ethan realized something important. This was only the beginning. Danger would come again, challenges would arise, and the unknown would test them both. But he also knew that with Lyra by his side, he was no longer just a lone engineer. He had a partner, a friend, and perhaps something more. And as the ship sailed into the quiet darkness of space, Ethan felt a spark of hope. Life would never be simple again, but it would be extraordinary, and he was ready for it. Days passed as Ethan and Lyra traveled through the vast darkness of space. The hum of the ship and the soft glow of control panels became their constant companions. Ethan still struggled to fully understand Lyra, and she, in turn, tried to understand humans. Their relationship had grown beyond simple assistant and owner. They were learning to trust and rely on each other in ways neither had experienced before. One quiet evening, while Ethan calibrated a new propulsion module, Lyra spoke softly. "Ethan, there is something important you must understand about me." Ethan looked up, curious but cautious. "What is it?" Lyra's violet eyes seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. "I am not merely a companion assigned to help humans. My species has a system, bonded companions. It is a rare process. Only individuals with certain qualities are compatible. You were selected because your mind and spirit meet these criteria." Ethan frowned. "Selected, you mean? This was planned? Someone chose me?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, your species possesses creativity, problem-solving ability, and resilience. These traits are essential for successful bonding. Without them, the connection cannot function." Ethan's heart raced. He had asked for a robot, something predictable and simple. Instead, he had been paired with an alien being who had not only chosen him, but depended on him for their bond to work. "So I'm special?" he asked quietly, half in disbelief. "You are compatible," Lyra replied softly. "It is an honor to form this bond with you. Our connection allows us to work as one, combining our strengths in ways that neither species could achieve alone." Ethan sat back, trying to process her words. He had spent so much of his life alone, focused on machines and calculations. Yet here was a being who saw potential in him, who had chosen him for reasons far beyond what he could have imagined. A strange warmth grew in his chest, something he had not felt for years. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted a robot to help me work." Lyra stepped closer, her presence calm but commanding. "This is more than assistance. It is partnership, it is trust, and it is mutual. I learn from you as you learn from me. Together we can achieve things neither of us could alone." Ethan's mind drifted to the dangers they had faced. The drones, the black-suited agents, the threats from unknown corners of the galaxy. It all suddenly made sense. He had not just been sent an assistant. He had been paired with a being capable of survival, defense, and intelligence beyond human limits. And now, understanding her purpose, he realized he had a role in their success as well. "You mean, this bond isn't just about helping me?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "It is about both of us. We are partners in survival, in learning, and in discovery. Your thoughts, your decisions, your courage, all of these are important to the bond. It is not one-sided." Ethan looked at her, realizing the full weight of what she had said. She had been sent to him because he was human, because his abilities complemented hers, and because together they were stronger than any threat they could face alone. The realization was both terrifying and exhilarating. "So, you're saying we're a team?" he said slowly, testing the words. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "More than a team, a bond. Mutual understanding, trust, and cooperation. That is why I am here. That is why I exist in your world." Ethan's chest tightened. He had spent years alone, building machines that obeyed commands but never thought, never felt. Now he had someone beside him who challenged him, who trusted him, and who relied on him in ways no machine ever could. And he realized, with a sudden clarity, that he had begun to care for her. Not just as an assistant, not just as an alien companion, but as someone important in his life. Lyra observed him quietly. "Ethan, do you understand why I was sent?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, and I think I'm beginning to understand why I needed you too." She extended her hand toward him. "Then let us continue together. Whatever challenges come, we will face them as one. Ethan reached out and took her hand, feeling a strange sense of connection, as if the two of them were not just standing in a ship, but standing against the vastness of the galaxy together. For the first time, he felt a true sense of partnership, of trust and of possibility. He had wanted a robotic assistant, something simple and predictable. Instead, he had found Lyra, an alien, a companion, a protector, and a bond that promised far more than he had ever imagined. And as the stars passed by outside the ship's viewport, Ethan realized that their journey was no longer just about survival. It was about discovery, growth, and the extraordinary possibilities that could arise when human courage and alien intelligence worked together. The cargo ship drifted silently through space, its engines low and steady, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air. He had hoped that leaving Earth would put them out of danger, but the warning signs were clear. Sensors picked up multiple fast-moving vessels approaching from behind, sleek and black, almost invisible against the stars. Ethan's hands tightened around the control console. "They found us," he muttered, eyes scanning the readouts. Lyra stood beside him, calm as always. "Yes, they are persistent. But persistence does not equal success. We can evade them if we act strategically." Ethan nodded, though a knot of fear twisted in his stomach. He had never been in a real fight, let alone a space chase against unknown adversaries. But with Lyra beside him, he felt a strange sense of courage. Together, they had survived threats before. Together, they could face this. The attackers closed in quickly. Ethan studied the ship's controls, thinking fast. "We need to create a diversion," he said. "If we can confuse their targeting systems, we might slip past." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she moved to the rear panel. "I can manipulate electronic signals. I can feed them false data, delay their approach. But timing must be precise." Working together, they activated a series of countermeasures. Lights flashed, engines adjusted, and the ship shifted in ways that made the pursuing vessels hesitate. Ethan marveled at Lyra's control over technology. She moved with a precision and confidence he had never seen in any human or machine. The first ship fired a pulse, a bright beam that sliced through space. Ethan ducked instinctively, heart racing, while Lyra extended her hands, projecting a shield of energy that deflected the beam. The second and third attackers tried to follow, but Lyra anticipated their movements, guiding the ship with perfect timing. Ethan's mind raced. He input commands, adjusted the thrusters, and worked in harmony with Lyra. They were no longer just a human and an alien, they were a team, each anticipating the other's actions. "We can escape through the asteroid field up ahead," Lyra said calmly. "It is risky, but they are unlikely to follow closely." Ethan swallowed hard. "Risky is one word for it. But if you think we can make it, I trust you." Lyra nodded. Then we moved together. The cargo ship shot toward the asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks and debris. Ethan's hands moved quickly over the controls, while Lyra guided him with a precise, unerring sense of direction. The attackers followed, but one by one they began colliding with asteroids or losing their trajectory in the chaos. Ethan felt a thrill of adrenaline. He had never imagined such danger, such excitement. His mind was racing with calculations, predictions, and quick decisions. And Lyra's presence made every choice easier. She wasn't just helping. She was enhancing his abilities, pushing him to perform at his best. Finally, the last pursuing vessel fired one desperate shot. Lyra extended her hands again, this time creating a pulse that sent the energy back toward the attacker, disabling its systems instantly. Ethan watched in awe. You just did that?" Lyra smiled faintly. "I am capable, but your actions were equally important. Together we ensured success." Ethan's chest tightened with relief and admiration. He had wanted a robotic assistant, something predictable, something to make his work easier. Instead, he had Lyra, an alien, a partner, a protector, and now he understood fully that their bond was far more powerful than anything he had imagined. The cargo ship finally emerged from the asteroid field, free of immediate danger. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. We made it," he whispered. Lyra turned to him. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. Those who seek me will not give up easily. We must remain vigilant and continue to work together." Ethan nodded, feeling a new sense of determination. "I get it now. It's not just about surviving. It's about using what we have, our skills, our bond, to face whatever comes next." Lyra's eyes softened, her calm presence grounding him. And we will face it together. Your creativity, courage, and adaptability, combined with my abilities, make us formidable. That is why we were paired. Ethan looked at her, the realization sinking in fully. He had spent his life alone, building machines, dreaming of progress. But now he had someone who challenged him, who trusted him, and who relied on him in ways he had never experienced. Someone who made his life more exciting, more dangerous, and more meaningful. I don't think I could have done any of this without you, he admitted quietly. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. And I could not have done it without you. That is the nature of our bond. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's viewport, Ethan understood that life would never be simple again. He had asked for a robotic assistant, but he had gained something infinitely greater. Together, he and Lyra had faced danger, survived impossible odds, and discovered the strength of their partnership. And in that moment, floating through the quiet vastness of space, Ethan realized that no matter what threats awaited them, they would face them side by side, stronger together than they could ever be alone. The cargo ship drifted through the calm darkness of space, far from Earth and the dangers that had chased them. Ethan sat in the control room, staring at the stars stretching endlessly beyond the viewport. The tension of the last few days had faded, replaced by a quiet sense of relief. Lyra stood nearby, her hands folded, observing him with those glowing violet eyes that had become so familiar. "We are safe for now," Lyra said softly. "The immediate threats have been neutralized, but others may come. Our journey is far from over." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of everything they had been through. He had wanted a robotic assistant, something predictable and obedient. Instead, he had found Lyra, an alien, a partner, a companion who had changed everything he thought he knew about life. "I know," he said, "but I feel like we can handle it together." Lyra's gaze softened. "Yes, together we are stronger than any threat. And I have learned much from your creativity and ingenuity. You inspire me to adapt in ways I never imagined." Ethan smiled faintly. He had spent years alone, working with machines that obeyed instructions but could not think, feel, or learn like Lyra did. Now he had someone who challenged him, who relied on him, and who trusted him completely. Someone who had become more than an assistant. Someone who had become a part of his life. They worked quietly through the next few hours, checking the ship's systems, analyzing their route, and planning their next steps. Lyra taught Ethan new techniques from her species' technology, showing him ways to enhance the ship, improve efficiency, and even defend themselves if danger returned. Ethan in turn explained human engineering methods, giving her insight into his problem-solving skills and creativity. As the stars moved past them, Ethan realized how much he had changed. The shy, lonely engineer who had only wanted a machine for help had become part of something far greater. A true partnership, built on trust, respect, and mutual reliance. And he knew that Lyra had changed as well. She had learned about human life, emotions, and the value of teamwork, yet she still retained her alien strength and wisdom. Together they were stronger than they had ever been apart. After a while, Ethan stood and approached Lyra. "You know," he said quietly, "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for an alien companion for a bond like this. But I can't imagine my life without you now." Lyra tilted her head, her expression gentle. "And I cannot imagine existing in your world without you. Our pairing was not random, Ethan. The bond was meant to be. It is not only beneficial, it is natural." Ethan's chest tightened. He had spent years dreaming of efficiency, machines, and logic. But now he understood that life was about more than that. It was about connection, trust, and the courage to face the unknown with someone at your side. He reached out and took Lyra's hand, feeling the warmth and strength that had always been there. "Lyra," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I don't know what the future holds, but I want us to face it together. Not just as partners, not just as a team, but as something more. I want you in my life in every way that matters." Lyra's violet eyes softened and a faint smile curved her lips. "Ethan, I accept. Our bond is complete and I will remain with you. In every challenge, every discovery, every future moment. Together." For a moment, the two of them simply stood there, hand in hand, looking out at the stars. The silence was not empty. It was full of understanding, trust, and a promise of what was to come. As they continued their journey, Ethan realized that the galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders, but he no longer felt afraid. With Lyra beside him, he had everything he needed: intelligence, courage, and a bond stronger than any threat. The cargo ship moved on, carrying them toward new adventures. Ethan began to sketch ideas for future projects, blending human and alien technology in ways that could revolutionize space travel. Lyra observed, offering suggestions, learning and adapting, always at his side. Together they dreamed bigger, built faster, and explored further than either could have alone. And in the quiet of the ship, far from Earth and the dangers they had escaped, Ethan understood something profound. He had wanted a machine for convenience, but he had found something infinitely better: a companion, a partner, a friend, and someone who made him a better human. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but Ethan no longer felt small or alone. He had Lyra, and together they could face anything. Together they were unstoppable, and for the first time in his life he felt truly alive. The galaxy was theirs to explore, and nothing could stop them.